Okay guys, so this is the first one of these homework videos I'm going to be doing and posting with you all the time. So you have a 7.1 worksheet to do here. It's got 16 questions and it's kind of been divided up into 4 sections, and I'm going to do the first problem of each one of those 4 sections here for you. So let's take a look at it. Our directions right here are to solve each proportion. We have 4 over m is equal to 2 over 6. Now let me just point out right now that this number down here in a red set of braces right there, that is actually the answer to the problem. So we're going to try to do it this way for the summer. Every problem that you're going to see, the answer is given to you. So let's make sure we can get that. All right, so one of the things we talked about in our 7.1 notes is that in any proportion, the 2 cross products are equal to each other. So we're going to multiply the 4 times the 6, and we're going to multiply the m times the 2. I always like to do my variable one first, so I'm going to start right there. The m times the 2 is going to get us simply 2m. The other cross product, kind of hard to see here, guys, sorry, is 4 times 6, which I think we can go ahead and do in our heads to say is 24. And those 2 cross products have to be equal. All we need to do now is think about what's being done to m. It's being multiplied by 2, and how do we undo that? Which is to divide by 2 on both sides. 2's cancel, and sure enough, we get m is equal to 12. That's our solution right there, and that matches what they had. I don't like how they present their solutions. Anytime the directions to a problem say solve, you're solving an equation, and the solution to an equation should always be variable equals constant. So I don't want just 12 for the answer, I want m equals 12. All right, we're 1 for 1 so far. Let's move on to number 5. Now the directions are the same on this entire worksheet here, guys, which is simply to solve every proportion. It's just that the proportions grow in complexity just a little bit, but the same basic idea is going to follow. We're going to begin by multiplying the 2 times the n plus 1, but we need to remember that when you're multiplying 2 times n plus 1, this is a monomial, a one-term expression multiplied by a binomial, which is a 2-term expression. And every time you multiply by a polynomial, including a binomial, you need to put parentheses around that binomial. And I think you know what that means for our next step, but I'll come to that in a moment. Okay, so for the first cross product was 2 times n plus 1. The second cross product is right here. The 3 times 3 is going to get us a 9. Now, what we're probably going to want to do here is distribute that 2. Again, it's easy to remember the distributive property if you see the parentheses, but a lot of times people forget to put those parentheses there. 2 times n is going to be 2n plus 2 times 1 is going to be 2, and that equals 9. All right, and now it's just some inverse operations. We're going to subtract a 2 from each side here. Those cancel, and we're going to get 2n is equal to 7. We're going to divide both sides by 2 here, and I would imagine that most of you would want to go to your calculators here and ask it what 7 divided by 2 is. If you do that, you're going to get a decimal answer of 3.5. I'd give full credit for that, guys, but I set this worksheet up to give you the answers written as fractions, and actually, this is the point I make for all of my students here. Fractions are actually easier than decimals, you guys. 7 divided by 2 doesn't divide evenly, so we just leave it as 7 over 2, or 7 divided by 2, and there's our answer to number 5. All right, let's move on to the third batch of problems right here. Again, complexity increases just a little bit right here. We actually now for the first time have the variable in 2 different spots in this proportion. There's an n in the first denominator, and there's an n plus 10 in the second denominator. So it doesn't really matter which one we do here first. I'm going to go this direction first here. The 7 gets multiplied by that n to make us 7n. That equals, and now the second cross product, now just like the one we had, we have a monomial here, which is 3, multiplied by a binomial, n plus 10. So we're going to write the monomial, 3, and the binomial, n plus 10, needs to get written in parentheses. Okay, that is an easy thing for people to forget as they're going through this. All right, let's see what we can do here. We're going to have to use the distributive property next, so that's going to be a 7n is equal to 3 times n is 3n, 3 times 10 is going to be 30. All right, we usually want to move the smaller term to the larger one, so we're going to subtract a 3n from the right and subtract it from the left as well. Those 2 terms cancel, And on the left, 7n minus 3n leaves us with a 4n, and then just a 30 over here on the right, and we're going to divide both sides by 4. Now again, if you went to your calculator right here, I think you'd get an answer of n is equal to 7.5, and I'd give you full credit for that. What you can see they did here, guys, is they just looked at the 30 over 4 and divided out the greatest common factor of those two numbers, which is just 2. 30 divided by 2 is going to give you a 15 for your numerator. 4 divided by 2 is just going to get you a 2 for your denominator. And there's our answer of n is equal to 15 over 2. So check, got that one right as well. And let's look at our last problem right here. This one is maybe slightly more difficult than the last one, but not much, mostly because we have binomials in two different spots. So I'm going to begin in either direction you want to do this is fine, but I'm going to go with 8, which gets multiplied by the binomial v plus 3. Don't forget your parentheses. Equals, and now we're going the other direction here. It's going to be a 4 multiplied by the binomial of v plus 2. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. Now we're going to need the distributive property, not just on one side, but actually on both sides. 8 times v is 8v. 8 times 3 is 24, equals 4 times v is 4v, and 4 times 2 is 8. All right, we've got variable terms and constant terms on both sides of the equation, so we always want to worry about our variable terms first. We have an 8v on the left, a 4v on the right. We move the smaller one to the larger one. So we're going to subtract a 4v from both sides. At the same time, because you guys are just a few months off from being Algebra 2 students, we're going to do something else. All of our variables are moving left. That means we want all of our constants to move to the right. This constant right here on the left-hand side then needs to move. And I can do that at the same time here as I messed with the v's. So moving a 24 is done by subtracting 24 from the left and from the right as well. So what cancels here? The 24s on the left cancel. The 4v's on the right cancel. And what does it leave us with? 8v minus 4v is 4v on the left, equals, and a positive 8 minus 24 is going to get us a negative 16 on the right. Last thing to do here is to divide both sides by 4, and we're going to get v is equal to negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. Okay, and there's our answer. Now, the one thing I wanted to do here real quick before we get done with this one is to show you that with every equation that we solve in math, especially in geometry, it is not that difficult to check your answer and make sure that you got it right. So let's see what we can cram in. I'm going to go back to this original proportion right over here, and let's make sure that it works. So we had 8 over 4 equals, and now let's take a look. We know that the value of v is negative 4, so let's put that negative 4 back in here for both of those v's and see what happens. Negative 4 plus 2 in the numerator is going to get us a negative 2 up on top. And in the denominator, negative 4 plus 3 is going to be negative 1. All right, so the question here is, does 8 over 4 equal negative 2 over negative 1? Well, in this case, it's not that hard to actually simplify each side. Remember that a fraction is just another way of expressing division. So this left side really could be read as 8 divided by 4, which is 2. And on the right side, negative 2 divided by negative 1. Well, 2 divided by 1 is 2, and a negative divided by negative is positive. So 2 does equal 2. That answer checks out, and we know for a fact now that this answer is right, even if that answer wasn't given to us. All right, guys, so you've got 12 more problems to try on your own on the 7.1 worksheet. Let's see how we do on those. Good luck.